Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the Township Board's business meeting. We'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Yeah, we're starting a little earlier than our normal business meeting, simply because we don't have much of an agenda today. We're pretty much limited to one or two items, so we thought, being the summer, and we could get this out a little earlier. With that, additions, deletions. Seeing none, if I'd like a motion for approval of the agenda.
Motion to approve.
Okay, we have all in favor?
Aye.
All right, so let me get the. All right, first public comment on agenda items. 3 minutes. Do we have anybody? I guess we do. No one's raising their hands, so we'll move on to the consent agenda. David?
Thank you, Mr. Supervisor. At this time, I'd like to make a motion to approve consent agenda 23-039, which consists of minutes of the June 26th, 2023 regular meeting and check registers dated through June 30, 2023.
Okay, pretty routine. Any questions on anything? Seeing none, we have a motion to approve consent agenda 23-039, which consists of the minutes of June 26th, 2023 regular meeting and the check register dated through June 30th, 2023. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Our consent agenda is approved. With that, we come to our item of the night. We're pleased to have DTE and their representatives here tonight to speak to us regarding our power situation. We also have Jamie Churches, our state representative, and we have Cal Critchen from Debbie Dingle's office representing her. I'm going to start with the representative and Cal. Cal, do you have anything? Okay, so Jamie, would you please step up and.
Thank you all for having us tonight. I am here as a state representative, and I have been in collaboration and communication with Congresswoman Dingle, Senator Camilleri. They both have representatives here with them. And also tonight we have another guest, Energy Chairwoman Helena Scott. I have the honor to be serving in Lansing on the Energy Committee, and that means that we are looking at policies for our state that can move Michigan in a direction of energy reliability and going forward in the future. And we take seriously our role to do that job and hold energy companies accountable. And we understand with our changing environment and weather that we're facing and older infrastructure, there are sometimes challenges. So we've also been in collaboration and communication with DTE, our energy provider for the area. And 2 weeks ago on Sunday, I got a call from my mom, and I got several text messages from people in our community, friends, families, colleagues who were very concerned. And when these things happen, they reach out to me because they want answers. And I didn't have exact answers, and I was trying to find them. But we were without power before a storm had come. That Wednesday, we had Energy Committee where we were getting an informative presentation from DTE, and I asked questions about what DTE is doing, to move their company forward to meet these challenges that we're facing in our time right now. And that night we passed the budget, and on my way home, my phone was full of messages from friends, family, and colleagues that live on Groseal about losing power again without a storm. So I stayed in constant communication with my colleagues and with DTE, trying to find solutions and strengthen our communication. So I know that these are big challenges, and our infrastructure is sometimes outdated. And something that I know about the residents of Groseal, my constituents, DTE's customers, is that we are great neighbors, and we are used to dealing with crumbling infrastructure, and we make it work. And we've done so with a bridge, and we have had it closed for long periods of time, and we have carpooled across that bridge. We've taken our kids to soccer games. We've gotten people safely to get care they needed, and we make those things work. But the reason why those things work is because we have strong communication, and that is something that I want to develop with our energy reliability and accountability. So I have reached out to DTE requesting that they be here today to do just that, to increase communication with their customers, with our constituents, because when we don't have power and we don't have a storm and I don't have answers, I want to find those answers, and I want to be part of a team that works with this company to give the community a sense of relief, of knowing they're being taken care of, and so they know what's going on. Because a lot of our residents have generators. They've spent thousands of dollars to power their homes because they're so used to losing power so frequently, and it's not acceptable. So we're trying to make these things better, and DT has been very accommodating being here today, and they have made a $14 million investment. So they're going to talk about the investment into infrastructure. So what I want to do by having them here as our guests is to increase that communication so that all of the leaders of our community, all of you here tonight, can learn about what they have communicated to me, because I believe the experts are the best ones to convey that information to you, not secondhand through me. And so I'm just kind of a conduit of communication. And then also so that residents, if they have any questions, they can air those questions in public comment. I can listen, they can listen, and we can move forward. So in the future, even if we might not be able to fix the problems right away, I think communication will be a very key piece into strengthening our relationships and understanding so that we can move together as a community of neighbors and partners. So thank you so much.
Thank you. And I'm sorry, the lady from the
Chairwoman Helena Scott.
Helena, would you like to say anything?
Thank you so much. Thank you, Chair Scott.
Hello, everybody. I'm State Representative Helena Scott. I represent House District 7 out of Wayne County and Oakland County, and I am Chair of Energy. And definitely here to support Representative Jamie Churches. Also, we have a very good collaborative relationship with DTE, and was very pleased to hear that they would be coming here tonight to really speak on a lot of the issues that have been happening on the island. And so Representative Churches has communicated quite a few things to me, and as Chair of Energy, it's really disturbing to hear that you guys have lost power so frequently, and so we really want to know why, and that was my question to DT as well. So I'm gonna, let them have the floor and explain to all of us as to, the reason why the power outages have been happening. Okay, great. Thank you for having me.
Thank you, and thank you for coming.
Oh, you're very welcome. Absolutely, no problem.
Al, last chance. You're all set? Okay, very good. Then we'll get DTE up here. Who wants to? Dave, you want to go first? And I'll let you introduce the rest of your people as they come up.
Great. Thank you, Supervisor Bundy and honorable trustees of the township. First of all, want to introduce real quick our DTE team that's here. We have Satvir Diol, who's the Director of Central Engineering for DTE. We have Gil Salazar, he's the Director of Regional Operations. We have Kirsty Stallings, she's a Regional Manager, and Barbara Reichwalder, who's a Manager of Corporate Government Affairs. And so, first of all, I'd be remiss if I did not apologize for the recent outages that the island experienced. Representative Churches alluded to this investment that we've been making into the island. We are here to explain that investment. When we talked to Representative Churches and to Chairwoman Helena Scott, they asked us two fundamental questions. Number one, what happened? And number two, what is the plan forward? What is the plan forward to bring more reliability that the island needs and deserves? So with that, I would like to introduce Satvir to come up, who is, again, he's the Director of Central Engineering for DTE. He'll take you through a presentation about the investment that we're making in the island. Thank you.
And David, you're the Director of Regional
State Government Affairs.
State Government Affairs.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, good evening. I appreciate the opportunity to speak to the trustees here to explain our investment into Groseal Substation and kind of go through some of the issues that we've been having recently. So I'll start out with just an overview for the overall audience to understand the high-level power distribution grid. And we'll talk a little bit about the couple outages that we've had, the 25th and the 28th of June. And then we'll talk about the investment and the benefits that we should see once we've done here. All right, so this demonstrates the overall high level of electrical grid. You can see up in the left here, you've got the power generating source. It could vary from solar, wind, nuclear, all that aspect is where we generate the power. And then we transmit it over what we call high-level transmission lines. Those are usually the typical ones with the towers. And then you come into what we call as the station. So this is where the first electrical transformation occurs. So you're going from high-level voltage to a sub-transmission level voltage. So 345, 120 coming in this case for Groseal, we're transmitting it to 24 kV, right? So that's the sub-trans portion and come into the substation. That's the substation itself, which serves the island. And then you've got the distribution circuits going down to the community and the customers. And then the area that we'll be talking about is this area here, the sub-trans, and touching a little bit about the substation itself. So I wanted to start out by giving an overview of the substation itself. So on the left, you see the pictures of it's designed to be concealed within the environment for the island itself. Didn't want it to stick out, and you can see down below the aerial overview. So everything is so the two buildings that you see is the one here in the left here. That both of these actually, that's where our transformers are, the big giant power transformers. And then this building here is our circuit breakers, and this was the additional add from the initial substation to provide additional load as the island load grew. So one of the challenges of serving the island is that we have 3 feeds for liability to feed the substation. However, all 3 of those feeds are through the Detroit River. All right, so we have 2 feeds, trunk 1 and trunk 2, just to make it simple, that were the earlier part of the grid, and so they're just laying at the bottom of the river, coming up on the island. And then the 3rd feed that was added, that's bored underneath the river. So it's got conduit bored through, give you 3 feeds from a reliability perspective. And the substation itself has 11 circuits that fan out through the island to serve approximately the 5,000 customers. So moving on to the instances that we've had. So the first instant that happened was June 25th. So the scenario for that one was let me back up here. So one of the issues that we've had here for roughly about a year now, we had trunk 2 fail So that's the submarine cable that's going through the river that failed. That was a fault. There was really no way for us to go down to the riverbed and go fix it. So the only solution was that we were going to pull it out and put new cable down through, and we'll talk about that in the next slide. So one trunk line has been down, right? So we had 2 trunk lines feeding the substation, trunk 2 and trunk 3. So for the first event, while we were making repairs to trunk 2, while we're making repairs to trunk 1, we had to shut down trunk 2 because of for adjacent hazards. So in order for our crews to make the repairs as they were doing on that cable pole, trunk 2 overhead crossed that line. Just for safe distance for the crews to work safely, we had to shut down trunk 2, right? So that left 1 feed to the substation serving all of the load. Actually, the substation is designed to be able to be served on 1 feed. So what happened on the 29th is that we had a overhead issue over here. So this is on the, I guess, the land side or the main body side off of the island. So we had a failure in the overhead that caused issues and concerns at the substation, and that knocked down the feed, right? So that was the first outage itself. And our crews came in, they discovered it, and then we went and repaired it. I believe that outage was roughly about 3 hours for the first time, and then the remaining customers were restored in another hour or so, once all the repairs were made. And after that, we had completed our work for trunk 1, and we had restored the substation to 2 feeds, right? Like it has been for a while. So the second event on the 29th, what happened is that we had issues on the overhead again on close to the substation itself on the island side. So this one, the damage was a little bit more severe. So what had happened is, as the damage occurred, our subtrans fell into our secondary. So in order to resolve that, to give our crews to be able to repair that, and per our guidelines, when the primary falls into the secondary, we have to de-energize to allow them the opportunity to repair it. So that's what happened the second time. So we had to take, but 1 feed was down. The second one we had to take down in order for our crews to fix it. So that was the event on the 28th. So there, the damage was extensive, but we were able to restore about 50% of the customers in about 3 to 4 hours, but it took longer for some of the customers to come back. All right, so now we'll talk into the investment itself. So we've been focused in on solving this problem for about a year or so. We've run into many issues as we resolve this. Again, this is the cable that has failed that was lying on the river. So the solution that we've gone to is that we're going to go bore this underneath the river, put in conduit, and not let it just lie there to protect it from maybe anchors and all that stuff, so it doesn't get dredged or gets impacted. So we've bored underneath the river, and that cable is through, and we're just making our final connections and making some upgrades at the substation. So we're targeting that one to be done by the end of this month, and so that we'll have 2 reliable feeds coming across, and then we're going to go work on the other cable. So this is, since we're doing this work, we're trying to be proactive. So this cable that failed said, since we're going to all the effort to drill underneath the river, we might as well just go ahead and replace that other cable too. That's what we're doing. So we're also boring through the second conduit, and as soon as we get the first one resolved and all the other issues that we're working on, we'll come back and replace that cable. And that one's targeted to be replaced in the fall. So the community should have 2 brand new cables, which are rated at a higher voltage than what you currently have. And the third cable, the feed that we're playing around with, that was replaced in 2007. So that should have lots of life left to it itself. So once we get done, we should have 3 brand new subtrans feeds coming into the substation. And then we're also making some changes on our overhead to add more pole top switches and so on. So that gives the greater operability here, so you have many more options if we do have an issue that we can operate and isolate things and restore faster. And then we're still investigating those 2 instances that happened on the overhead. We're modeling, trying to understand what caused those failures. Depending on what we find on the system, we'll go ahead and make additional projects to make those upgrades on the overhead. And then, so these are the improvements that we expect coming through. So once we get done here by year end, there should be 3 reliable feeds with enough capacity. And also, while we're boring, we're going to bore another conduit come across as a spare, just in case that we do have a cable failure, that we can pull cable right away and replace or whatever, provide an alternative feed coming across while we figure out why it failed. Also, as we stated, we're replacing the cable with a higher rated cable, so that should bring in extra capacity to the island. And again, the spares in there, so it should make repairs faster, just in case we have further issues and concerns. And then finally, just this aspect of this whole project beforehand was to replace the aging equipment coming across. So in the end, just wanted to reiterate, so I mean, the company is making investments throughout the grid, so we wanted to talk about the investment local to Groseal. So our walkaway is, once we get done here, we were working on this project before these instances happened. These instances reiterated and stated that we needed to work on this faster, getting all these done. So you should have 3 reliable feeds coming across, increased capacity, and we have a spare means to pull in cable just in case something else happens. So we should be able to restore faster versus the year or so it's taken us. And then that, we've run into many challenges there also. So the drilling rig that we were using, we came into some rock formations that we were not aware of. And then the rig itself has been damaged a couple times. So we had to pull it out, wait for repairs and so on. So it's taken us longer than what we anticipated, but once we get done, there should be reliability for this substation. All right, that's all I have.
Sir, one question
Yes.
before you sit down. I'm sorry if I missed this, I apologize. But on the 3 cables, where is the construction being done? I know from that side of the island coming over, but where is it being done geographically? Like, is it Riverview, Trenton, or in the middle, right there off Parkway?
The 2 cables that we're replacing, they're close to the Trend power plant. In essence, that's where the equipment is staged on that side.
Okay, did something come over from Riverview that failed last time, or was that not part of it?
The 3rd feed comes from Riverview.
That's what it was. Okay, thank you.
Yes, go ahead.
You don't mind a question at this point, or is there more?
No, sure.
Okay. Well, one, I appreciate your comment about the boring under the river. About 10 years ago, Groseal was doing underground boring for water lines, and we discovered that this region is a boulder field. And that was a surprise that shouldn't have been. So I get that.
Right.
You're pointing out this is a very good investment, and we're certainly looking forward to having that come online, no pun intended. It was reported on the news maybe last week or 2 weeks ago that Consumers Energy is investing and trying out community-wide underground laying of power lines in some mid-Michigan, northern Michigan communities that have had frequent power outages, mainly due to trees. Obviously, that's been an issue here on Groseal. One of the, besides having like an all-island outage like we experienced, there are neighborhoods on the island that I'm sure you're aware of that have more frequent outages than other neighborhoods. I happen to live in one of those, and we have a very archaic grid throughout the island. So my house may lose power, and everybody east of me may lose power, but everybody west of us still has power, and we're all on the same street. there are streets like Concord and in the Potawatomi subs that tend to lose power more frequently than some other neighborhoods. Are there any plans on the books to address those kind of changes? Or I know that's very different from this, but this is a great opportunity for me to be able to ask. Again, when the power goes out, the noise level in the neighborhoods goes way up because the generators pop up. And to me, that's that's an indication of a third world power grid, right? When everyone has to have generators, whether they're whole house generators that are, propane powered or just the gasoline powered generator in your garage. That really shouldn't, be something that we have to worry about in a community in the United States. So I'm just curious if any of these kinds of issues are being addressed.
We are investigating ways to underground. I hope you appreciate the difficulties of coming and undergrounding a developed neighborhood, right? So we have one pilot that we've tried. It was in the city of Detroit, and we had some really great learnings from that. So we're baking that in and doing another pilot in the city of Detroit based on what we learned from there. We will go back and take a look at where strategically it makes sense for us to underground. Then besides just undergrounding, we're looking at other approaches here. So, after we get done, I'd appreciate it if I can get your information to figure out what circuit you're on. And so we can go take a look at what, I believe, I looked before I came here that we've done tree trimming on the island. So I believe all the circuits have been trimmed. But I would like to, get your information and just try to understand what else is happening to see if there's other things that we can go deploy. And then so you might have power and your neighbors might not, or the other way around. It could be there's two different circuits feeding that street, right? So that circuit's fine, whereas your circuit might have issues and concerns. And the other thing that we are looking at is maybe it makes sense in certain areas to deploy covered conductor, and that will help in cases where we do have tree branches that fall, that will prevent an outage itself for at least a small instance of time, rather than having a face-to-phase fault or a face-to-ground fault because of the branch laying on the three phases, that the covered conductor itself can absorb that. So those are some of the things that we're looking at, investigating, and trying to figure out strategically where we can deploy those.
That's good to hear. Sorry to say it's almost Greek to me, but I do understand the concept of the trees falling down, the lines coming loose. Wind has an impact, obviously. Not just it's not just always the trees that knock the lines down. Ice, all those kind of things.
Yes.
And underground is complicated. I understand that. But it's just, I think it's nice for, as Representative Church has pointed out, nice for our residents to hear firsthand what some of the programs are that are in place. I know we get mailers, but a lot of those mailers go into the recycling bin before we read them. And so to have this kind of interpersonal communication, that we can also maybe put this out to our community on our media, that's always very, very helpful. So I appreciate your kind of on the spot.
No, like I said,
offer.
the company is investigating many different ways to figure out how we can be more reliable, right? Undergrounding isn't the solution everywhere, because right at the moment where we're experimenting with it, it's costly and expensive to be able to underground, especially the subtrans coming in. It leads to having manholes and on, so it just gets really expensive. But there are certain areas where we're investigating, depending on what we find. And then the main thing that we're trying to figure out is how can we reduce cost during the construction phase to be able to do it effectively.
And that makes a difference if it's a new subdivision being planned, right? Where it can be part of the infrastructure as opposed to infilling in an older neighborhood.
Yes.
So, and we have a lot of older neighborhoods here, so I know that adds to the conditions.
Yeah, that's the challenge. That's the challenges we found on the first pilot, right? As we figured out, like, burying cable that, through conduit, that's not the issue. It's connecting from that to the house. We run into lots of issues, right? So if it's a developed neighborhood, there's giant trees in the way. So it ended up from that first pilot that we tried, instead of mass producing and connecting, each house was a specialized project, right? And that just leads to the increased cost coming across. Right? So that's what we're trying to work on. How do we do it faster? And once we understand that, then strategically there are areas that we will go back and look.
Because we absorb all those extra
Right,
costs
yeah,
as
it's-
consumers. So, yeah, we want you to be. All right, well, thank you. Thank you for indulging my questions.
No worries. Thank you very
Hi.
much.
Sure, yeah. Well, first, again, echo the thanks for being here very much. I greatly appreciate the apology. I don't know, at least it means a lot to me, I did have a question about exactly what happened on the 25th and 28th, if you could. Most of what I understood was that the 28th was worse than the 25th, but
Yes.
was it that a tree fell down on something? Was it the equipment failed? Or I was just curious more, if you could give more information on what happened during those incidents.
Sure. On the 25th, what happened when I was looking, I was like on the mainland, there's a.
Oh, microphone.
Sorry. There was a device, it's called like a pull top switch, that gives us the capability to switch between different feeds to the substation. And so we're still trying to understand why, but there were like jumpers around that pull top switch that failed. So that's what happened on the 25th. So to resolve that, as the crews came out, once they discovered where the issue was, they took out the old jumpers, put in the new jumpers, and that resolved that situation. And what happened on the 28th, that's another one that we're still trying to understand what happened, is the primary volt, or the subtrans voltage for the island, which is at 24 kV, fell into circuits on that same pole that are the secondary voltage, the 4.8. So when that happens, it energizes all the circuits, causes issues back to the substation. And again, that's why we had to de-energize the one other feed and the other main feed in itself. So, I mean, there's lots of issues there to resolve. So in order for the crews to work the secondary safely, we have to make sure that there's no chance of any backfeed coming across.
I understand. Well, no, that's very helpful. If you're ever able to fully figure out what happened, I know I'd like to know. I know sometimes you aren't always able to figure them out.
Right.
So I understand that. I think for me, the concern for me at the time, and I saw from other islanders, was a lot of these incidents happened before, like there was a lot of wind or anything like that. So there was like that's what made it feel more unreliable. I will just say, it's like, wow, the storm hasn't even hit yet and we're already down, was the feeling. And I understand what you all are trying to do in terms of having the 3 feeds again to give us more redundancy. I think, again, the concern is if equipment's failing like that in fair weather, is that going to happen again? And worst of all, what we've seen and what the worst power outages for us and a lot in the region is when we're down for days and you all are trying to figure out issues like this all over the region. So anyway, that's what I'm most interested in. And then this might not be a question for you, but Ute mentioned people, what they do is they invest in generators, and so many people are happy they've invested in generators, but I know just as many that bought generators when there was a long period of no power outages, didn't do the maintenance on them, and now they have generators that they spent thousands on that they feel like they shouldn't have done, And so I don't know if this is a question for you or the state representatives, but it's something I'm trying to figure out is what can we as a township do to increase reliability for ourselves, whether it's generators, whether it's solar power, things that we can do to increase our resiliency here. I don't know. I assume you all noticed, but obviously cross the bridge to get here. When the bridge is working, it's easy to forget how isolated we are. And when power goes out for the whole island, it can feel very, very isolating. So suggestions I'm open to from you all, from anyone really, of like, what can we recommend to residents? What can we look at as a township to create more reliability for ourselves in these incidents? I know the public safety building, for instance, has its own generator. Should we be looking at one for Township Hall? Those are things that I'm interested in and looking at to make sure that we're ready for things like this when they happen, is what I'd say. Yeah.
I guess I'll answer from my perspective, and as perspective from the company is like, man, my goal is sitting here, come and talk to you, is give you reliability out of that substation, right? So I know just looking at the reliability data, we have a couple tough years. So 2021, we had multiple storms, the grid had issues. not just for Groseal, but many other areas. So we're working through that. And then 2022, we had a cat storm that, looking through a lot of the outages for Groseal, was due to the cat storm. And then lately, we've just been having issues with this feed. And, unfortunately, we apologize. It's taken us much longer to get underneath and get the reliable approach that we were trying to work through, right? We could have just laid it down on the riverbed again, but that, we didn't think that was a very reliable solution. So we wanted to make sure that we did conduit underneath the river to, one, give you better cables coming across, higher voltage, and then also wanted to embed a spare in there just in case.
Yep, I understand. Yep. And,
Right.
yeah, thank you.
All right, thank you.
If not, thank you. David, who is Gil next up, or? Oh, I can't, I'm sorry, yeah. Where? Oh. Yes.
I'll wait
yeah,
at the end.
Yes,
Sorry.
you'll have comments after
I'll
their
wait at the end.
presentation.
We're set. He's here for questions. If something came up technical that.
Oh, so that's your,
Okay.
okay.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
I'm gonna ask Jamie if she wants to circle back on anything, or are you good?
Yeah, I kind of want to address your issue. So I don't, and I could be wrong, so if you could follow up, I don't believe it is the responsibility of our residents to be purchasing generators. You are customers, you pay for a service. So it is our responsibility to work in collaboration with you so that our infrastructure and reliability and accountability and communication is strengthened. So today we're trying to build a foundation for a stronger collaboration, a stronger partnership of communication, so that you as leaders in our community understand at a high level what's going on, because I've been learning a lot about energy. I was a 5th grade teacher, so I got a crash course into what that means. But what I want people to know is not to be afraid that they're gonna lose their whole fridge of food and not be able to pay for it and get to soccer practice on time, or be able to get ready for work, or have medication that they pay thousands of dollars for that's in their refrigerator. And those are the things that I care about as your representative, but I really think that it is the job of our energy providers to be providing us energy, not your job to figure out what to do when that energy, that job fails. So I will look at other solutions and things like that. We can talk about solar. I've been learning a lot about that. So if you want to have offside communications, but thank you all for being here. Thank you, DTE, for sharing your information. You are a wealth of knowledge, and I just look forward. Please, any resident can contact our office. If we don't have the answer, we will try and find it. Thank you.
Jim,
Thank,
you have a question?
yes, yes.
Ms. Scott, could you come to the microphone for a moment, please? Two things. First of all, thanks for coming tonight. I very much appreciate that. And Ms. Churches as well. Thank you both. You're the chair of the House Committee. You've been on this committee for a fairly
second.
long time, given your seniority.
Well, second term, yes, exactly.
What you've heard tonight, and I don't mean to put you on the spot, but what you've heard tonight in terms of the explanation and the corrective action plan, are you satisfied? Should we be satisfied?
I'm not totally satisfied now. I really think that we should have a little bit more detail as to when this is going to be completed, you know. I think you all should be notified if they're working on it. You should know in advance that something is going to go down so that you're aware. And actually, I have formed a task force that is really going across the state. We're going to Marquette at the end of the week. We were in Lansing and also in my district at Focus Hope. And we're going to be going to Grand Rapids, Flint, Benton Harbor, and back around to Oakland County. To really listen to the constituents, because this has not only been happening on Grosse Hill, it's been happening across the state, right? And so the concern, and I've been in talks with DTE, we're going to continue to talk, and not only myself with DTE, which also our leadership, the Speaker of the House as well. We actually have a meeting tomorrow. So we're not pleased. You know, we really want to make sure that DT is providing reliable service, affordable service, equitable service, and clean green energy, because we're going to move to renewables. So we want to do things like community solar, rooftop solar. So a lot of the options that someone brought up tonight, so that when there are inconsistencies with the energy power that they provide, that people can have still power. You know, we spoke about generators. I've been in talks with Chairman, the CEO of DTE, Jerry Norcia, about providing generators. We know that you're right. We shouldn't have to figure it out, but there are going to be some times. We live in Michigan. We live in a climate where we do have storms. So there are going to be some situations or times that we are going to lose power. But you guys have been experiencing an unrealistic amount of power outages, and that's unfair to you. Like Representative Church has said, you've been losing medicine, you've been losing food. You know, we are going to be working with DTE, consumers, the Michigan Public Service Commission. I held a 3.5-hour hearing in March where I brought them all in. I've also brought in the CEO of Consumers Independently, and also the CEO of DTE. So we are working in tandem. We are going to be coming up with a package bill that is going to help address some of these issues. That's the whole purpose of the listening tour that we've already started. So no, I'm not satisfied. There's work to do. I look forward to the collaboration with DTE. They're willing to collaborate and work. And I've expressed, they know some of the concerns that we have, and we plan on working together. Because the whole purpose of us representing constituents in Michigan is to hear you and to make sure that, you have reliable service, affordable service, equitable service, clean, renewable energy. And we want to make sure that that happens. And myself as Chair of Energy, I'm committed to that, not only for everyone in the state of Michigan, definitely the constituents in my district, because just like Representative Churches, she's accountable to you. I'm accountable to the constituents in my district. So collaboratively, we have a committee of 16 people on the Energy Committee, and we're all working towards that. So I just want you to know that we are planning on trying to get some things done. And I really think that DTE should be probably coming in regularly and speaking to you to kind of let them know where they're at in the process. Because I heard near the end of the year, is that correct? That this should be completed. Well, let's have some dates. Let's have some timelines, to make sure that they're kind of meeting it and being accountable. So,
In an eerie coincidence, my friend Mr. DeBose several months ago noted that energy reliability in Michigan among the 50 states is much closer to the bottom.
it is.
Now, we have states to the east of us and states to the west of us. They have comparable environmental factors, probably the same age of the grid and many of the component parts of that. The question becomes, how do other states and other utility companies handle that with seemingly, and I'm not bashing DTE, and nor am I bashing the state, but how do they handle similar conditions
Right.
in a better format or a better form?
And we're looking at that. We are doing some comparison analysis, and we're going to be in contact with those states to find out, what were their solutions, what were their answers to their energy issues, and the ones that are not having energy issues, what are they doing to make sure that their customers are having reliable energy. So we are going to be doing that. So again, that's the purpose of the task force that I've formed with the 9 legislators, 6 that are part of the Energy Committee and 3 that are other legislators in the State House. And in that hearing that I had in March, the Michigan Public Service Commission said, we look to the legislature to set the pattern or the rules as to what we need to follow. And so that's what we're going to be doing. We are looking at other states. We are getting a lot of information and data. I'm working directly with our policy department in the House of Representatives. So I don't have that in front of me today, but I'll be happy to come back as well and share that information with you.
Excellent, thank you.
Okay? You're welcome. And thank you so much for allowing me to speak, and it's my pleasure. Thank you. And thank you, DTE.
Okay, with that, we have no action items tonight, so we'll have our second public comment. Mr. Heil. Welcome back, sir. We haven't seen you for a while. You know the routine, 3 minutes.
If I could get it in that fast. I'd like to thank you for having these people here today. In a way, it's got a chassis to it. The concept I'd like to do is see if we could bring a process like this to the bridge. I know that there's been some meetings with the bridge and some presentation is made about future needs that will be taken and addressed in 2024. And something, as I recall, like $45 million is involved. The one consistency I see in that bothers me is that over a long period of time with a group of people who started saying something and not doing it, and then now, and I'm not saying they're not doing it, but we don't have anything that we've been told in the litany of people who have been there. They say something one day, change their mind another day, and it doesn't work out. The problem in that is that we end up with a unique situation where we have these tolls that we have to pay. And we made an estimate here, I think Jarecki did it, and I put my finger in my mouth and worked on it a little bit. And I came up with the taxpayers coming up with over $9 million, and at one point, that was pretty close to what the county was going to spend for the repair of the bridge. I think it went up a little more after that. If we can't afford $1,000 worth of medicine, we can't afford $1,000 worth of tolls either. And what I'm talking about then is seeing if we can get something that comes together. I think part of the problem, very sincerely, is just a lack of money. And so where's it going to come from? How are we going to do it? And I'm honestly of the opinion that we have to bring in the federal government. And thank you for being here, sir. I wasn't expecting that for this remark. And our state government as well. So maybe I hit the jackpot for my little pitch here. But this needs more horsepower to work with it. One last quick thing. They're right when they're talking about this subsoil and what they're doing here to put things together. When I was in college, I happened to be studying the erection of a people mover. It was a monorail, a different style than the people mover. It was going to go up Woodward Avenue, Grand River Avenue, and they found a colossal problem. They had this post that this thing was going to hang on, and at the bottom of it, there's going to be these 4 chutes sticking out from the post. And they thought it would just be one standard deal. Well, there were telephone lines, there were water lines, there were steam lines, there was trouble with rock.
Hey, you got 30 seconds, so get through the
They're
rock.
not fooling you. It takes a lot of money to get around that, and they can't always give you a schedule that's going to work on time because they get tripped. I'm out of time. Thank you.
Thank you, Bill. Mr. Zalasko.
Bob Z. Blauvelt. Jim, before I go into my public comment, may I ask a couple questions of our people here that gave the presentation?
You gentlemen mind? Go ahead.
Okay. First of all, in your presentation, the failures were due to overhead lines, nothing to do with the repairs you're going to do under the river, correct?
In that particular one feed, yes, we had issues on the overhead.
Okay, and the event, the event 2 was, you showed overhead on both of them.
Yes, it was both
Okay,
overhead
okay.
events.
Have a general question. We have quite an array of people here, and I'm sure that somebody might be able to answer these questions. Does anybody have an idea, and I heard a presentation by DTE on TV a while back. Does anybody have an idea of the percentage of load that the electric charging cars are putting on the grid? You must be bouncing that around engineering. I can't believe that the engineering department doesn't throw a number around.
We've done studies to understand that it all depends on the penetration rate.
penetration rate means how many are on it?
Yes, the acceptance of the technology coming.
Okay, and we're looking to the future as this penetration rate increases. We as a public should have no concerns. You're already on that and you're prepared to handle that, correct? Hopefully.
Yeah, we're looking for defining what changes that we need to make in the grid, and otherwise we're investing billions into the grid itself, right? We want to prep for the future, and one of our goals is to replace the 4.8 kV architecture with a 13.2 system throughout. So as we get more adoption coming across the 13.2 kV distribution level, we should be able to support more load.
To absorb the load?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. A couple other just quick questions. We have a,
That's okay. I just want to, whoever's going to answer, if you could come up,
Oh, I'm
because
sorry.
the people at home are not picking up
Yes,
your
yes, I'm
talk.
sorry.
So come up to the microphone.
come up and talk with Bob. I just had another general question. You are doing some work at the entrance to the island right now. You have the northbound lane of Jefferson shut down. I think you're putting a gas line in there. Any idea when the completion of that may take place? If you don't have the
Yeah,
answer
no,
to...
I don't. We would have to take a look on the gas side. I mean, if it's, okay.
I'll get the answer for that.
Okay. And in addition to that, when you draw the line under Parkway, will you have to shut Parkway completely down, or will you do a draw under the road without shutting it down completely? That would be the other question.
I would have to look into that, but the failed cable's already through. It's by on the cable pole here. We just need to make some upgrades to the substation itself, and we should be able to energize it.
Is that electrical, or are you putting a gas pipe under there?
Well, I was just talking about the electrical ones that we're
Okay,
replacing.
well, you're
underneath the
DTE,
conduit
gas
coming
and
in.
electrical, so...
Yeah, no, like I said, my expertise is on the
Okay,
electrical
so I guess
side,
maybe
so
the questions I'm asking are relative to, I believe it's a gas pipe going under there, right? So if somebody could call me back on that, I would appreciate it.
Barb, I'll get you his information.
Okay. And in closing, I would like to thank everyone for coming. It shows courtesy to the people of Groseal and professionalism. And I want to thank all of you for coming. We didn't have to ask. You came, shared our concerns, gave us information. It means a lot. I wish we could get the same service out of some of our other situations, but DTE did a very nice job, and our representatives, thank you for coming. It's very much appreciated. Communication is very important. Thank you. Public comment?
Go ahead, Bob.
I need to use the overhead.
Right there.
Regarding the Wayne County Bridge. As a member of the Taxpayers Association of Groseal, I am going to make a request tonight, give Groseal an opportunity to get involved and maybe even take the lead. I'm going to request an impact study on the Wayne County Parkway Bridge closures. The request, Groseal Township develop and promote an impact study as part of a strategy to build knowledge, prepare ideas, share resources, and increase awareness to promote and preserve the public health, safety, and welfare of the 10,000 plus residents of Groseal and also the neighboring communities with regards to the Wayne County Parkway Bridge. Although I'm asking in all areas of public health, safety, and welfare, an example of the welfare would be, what are the impacts on Groseal residents and surrounding downriver area every day the Wayne County Bridge is closed to vehicle traffic? Study to include a calculation of financial burden imposed on business, local government, residents, and other stakeholders. Obviously, for all of us, the purpose is to mitigate and reduce the documented negative impact to the community on the closure of that bridge. If you want to start a committee and you're looking for participants, we would be available, but I wish you would give it some serious consideration. We will now have something in our hand to speak intelligently at an engineering level with Wayne County. We have to be able to speak up on this bridge. Because in your last report, you had mentioned there were going to be closures in 25 or 26.
Possibly.
Okay, I thought you said there were going to be closures, but if that happens, it's going to have a drastic impact on the people on this island. Okay? You
Can
would
you-
give that some consideration?
Leave that with us?
I certainly will.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bob, give it to Elena if you would, please. Other than
Jim?
around there.
Jim, just one thing.
Yes.
I'm not trying to throw a monkey wrench into this, but Sammy definitely said it's a full closure. I mean, think we need to tell the people it's a full closure. He told us in the meeting when I,
Well, the point being, they don't know what it is yet. So before we get everybody worked up, we need to know what we're dealing with, and we don't know that yet, that's all. Yeah, if they're working on the structure, there probably is gonna be a closure.
well, I'm just telling you what he told me. That's
Well,
all.
I was there.
Oh, you were there, okay, and he said it will be a full closure. I just think we need to be transparent with all these people here. I mean, from everyone.
How long is a full closure? Is that a day, a week, a month, or
And
5 years?
that's what
the
isn't worked out yet, and that's
Well-
why you hesitate to say anything. So that's all, and that's fine, that's fine.
It is going to be several months. It's going to be several months. They agreed. They said they're going to do prep work that doesn't need to be a full closure on their prep work, but any repair. I mean, I'm sorry. I don't know why we're not just saying that to the people.
Well,
I mean,
that's fine, because we don't know. Last time at our meeting, I spoke about we didn't know, and it came out on social media that it was a definite number of days, so people don't necessarily listen. Or, I'm sorry, months. There probably is gonna be a closure, we just don't know what it's gonna be.
oh, I guess. Okay. I mean, if that's how you want to say it, I'm just.
Well,
I know what the head of bridges told us, and it is what it is. I mean, we need to prepare. We need to have plans. It's the same thing what I did with the police and fire department before I even came in, to make sure we had a plan if both bridges went down. No one else did. The police department didn't have one at the time. The fire department didn't have one at the time. I mean, I'm just trying to be honest and doing what I can for people.
Well, as it
okay.
approaches, Joe, it's not gonna be, they're closed tomorrow. There will be, once we know what we're dealing with, it'll be put out, obviously.
Well, maybe he shouldn't have told us that then, and he's the head of bridges.
So they're doing
Okay,
an
so,
investigation
anyway.
and
That's
prep
fine.
work. So by the
That-
time
we're
they figure out how much
There's a-
closure, that's going to be a pretty short window, isn't it? Like, we looked at the bridge, we did the prep work, and we're going to close it for 3 months starting next week, right? I mean,
I don't know.
you should give some warning.
I don't
right?
know. Yes. And they will, because they certainly don't want any backlash like that, hey, you guys are gonna shut us down for whatever, 3 months, and you're just telling us a week ahead of time?
Well,
That
even,
doesn't make
it
sense.
doesn't matter to me a week ahead of time, a year ahead of time, when the head of bridges looks at me in a meeting and says, when we ask him, what is it gonna be, and he says, full closure, it's gonna be a full closure. I mean,
No,
I know,
nobody's-
Carl, it might not be, a week, a month, you can get around it any way you want, but, to fix that bridge on 5 piers, he said will be a full closure.
No, and Joe, he didn't. The piers are not the problem, it's the structure.
Well, I'm saying that the repairs that have to be, okay, that's fine, we'll see when it
And
happens.
that's, we're getting off topic
Well, I
here.
know, I'm
Yeah.
just, I wanna make sure,
Yes, but yes.
I don't like,
As we said in that meeting, yes, be prepared. And we'll get in, as soon as we get any information, we put it out.
well, to me, that was information, so
No,
I'm sorry.
that was speculation. They didn't have anything definite to put out. Hearing something at the water cooler is not the same as here's our
That guy's the
definite
head
plan.
of bridges.
Yeah,
He's not a water cooler dude, he's the entire.
Joe, what I'm saying is we don't have any definite information.
The head of
That's
Wayne
the
County
point.
bridges.
We don't have any definite information.
Okay,
May-
okay, then
That's
I
all.
will not.
May
if
I
he-
say something?
I'll make
Sure
sure
you
when
can.
I listen to him.
Just a minute.
I wasn't in the meeting, but I know I follow this issue just like a lot of us do. My understanding is there has been a change of strategy. Before, the idea was to just repair the piers.
Correct.
Which could have been done without a closure. Now the strategy is to repair more, which includes the structure, like you said,
Correct.
Jim, which would very likely include a closure. That's my understanding. Again, we don't know when, how long, but that is a change in strategy. And I think what I will say is tough, again, I always just try to think about it, what it'd be like if I was in the public. Obviously, we've had a series of closures over the last 20 years, and each time we've been told, this will last for 20, 30 years. This will last for 20, 30 years. And so when, we just went through an extended closure that was devastating to this community, it really was. And then to hear again, we might have another closure in two or 3 years. Not knowing how much, it's still really tough to hear. So I think it is important to be honest with the public about that. And I am grateful that we will have a chance to prepare this time. The last time we didn't, so that was hard on all of us.
That is correct.
So I do think we need to start preparing and letting folks know it is a change in strategy. It does come with more investment for the bridge, and hopefully, and that's a good thing, I think. But yeah, we need to start communicating that out and planning that out. In my opinion, that's where I'm at.
That's fine. Thank you, Kyle. Yes, Mr. Flavin, thank you for waiting for us.
Kevin Flavin, Park Lane. First of all, I'd like to say to Energy Chair Scott, thank you for making the trip all the way down here.
Just call me Jamie. Yeah, just
Representative
Jamie. Jamie's good.
Churches.
Thank you.
And we have representatives from Senator's office?
Right here, Senator Camilleri.
Senator
Congresswoman
Camilleri
Dingell.
and Congresswoman Dingell's office. I think as a community and everybody, I think there are 4 or 5 people from DTE here. I have worked in government, and this is an impressive turnout for any community. And I think that we should be very, very appreciative of what you have come to us to talk about. And I know that Jameson, Trustee Yeager, went above and beyond and sent out a letter to a number of government agencies about the situation. And I think this is fantastic, and the community should be pleased. And thank you to all of you for coming out on a hot evening. The other thing I would like to mention is a couple other issues. As far as the bridge goes, the expense to the community and to some individual homes that have multiple drivers was significant, probably into the thousands of dollars. Some folks that have to drive on and off the island multiple times probably put out $5,000. And I really appreciate what Trustee Porcerelli was trying to do, is saying that we have asked as a community, and I know that he has asked for the bridge report, and the county has said that we were due a bridge report months and months ago, and we have not seen that. And for a community that is still shell-shocked from the 18 months that the bridge was closed, and still probably paying off the mortgage, the bridge, pay bridge mortgage, it's time that when the new, whatever is decided, however they attempt to repair the bridge, that the county should calculate in and possibly pay the toll for the free bridge. I don't know of any other community in Michigan, with some exceptions, I'm sure, that you have to pay to go home and go to work, to get off the island. And this it's been an ongoing issue. We know that there's been problems with bridge inspections, records falsified, according to Heather Catallo. So there are a lot of issues that the cost of the bridge repairs are going to be in the millions. 45 million was one number that was tossed about. Add that into what was spent before, that's up to 55 million. So it really does make sense to get a clear idea of what the issues are, when they are going to be taken care of, and have the community ask Wayne County to get here to have a presentation like we've seen this evening and tell us what our situation really is. And we really don't know how long, whether the bridge will be closed or not. I mean, the last time when we were closed for 18 months, it was a surprise. They came in on an afternoon and they shut the bridge down, and it was, I don't think any work was done on it for months. So again, and also thank you to, a lot of money has been sent down, it was moved to downriver by the state legislature, and that's a big deal, I think, for our community. I don't think we've seen that kind of money down this way. And Representative Dingle, with her efforts, we got a big chunk of money for that too, so thank you.
Thank you, Kevin.
Hi, good evening.
Hi. Long time no see.
Nice to be back. Judy Mega, 24655 Lafayette. I watched the meeting from home on my computer, and thank you very much to everyone who came out. Thank you for the beginning of some of the answers to many complicated questions that we have. I personally am very lucky that I was able to afford solar when I first moved here, and I never lost power. And my electric bill for June was $50. So I've asked several times, and I know the township is looking into it. It's a good investment. The credits are back, and it's a great time to look into it again. Well worth it. The panels are more and more stable. They're more and more affordable. They're made in USA. The ones we got were, so that please consider that as an option. But thank you to the representatives, the senators, and the congresswoman for all your work on this. I come here, I actually forgot that this was tonight, but the reason I'm here tonight is when I first moved here, I came to a meeting and Chief Beaudry spoke very passionately about the need for carbon monoxide detectors. 2 weeks ago tonight, at about this time, I was working in the basement of my home. My husband came home, and I was working on a project for somebody, and suddenly all of our carbon monoxide detectors that I specifically got because of Chief Beaudry's urging that night started blaring through the entire house. EMS arrived quickly. The level that you need to, the level that your alarm goes off at is 9. My house was 44 at the door and 89 in the basement. I never smelled a thing. I never felt bad for 1 second. I have an 8-week-old grandson that lives in my house in my basement now with my daughter while she's fixing up her house, and I, to this day, can't even let my mind go to what would have happened if I hadn't had those detectors. So please check your batteries, install carbon monoxide detectors. My house is not that old. It shouldn't have happened. We get our furnace inspected all the time. It didn't matter. It was a fluke. They're replacing it as we speak, and he still doesn't know why it happened. The exchange was correct, but my air was running, not my heat, so it really shouldn't have happened, but it was some sort of strange thing. So the detector saved our lives. And I personally thanked former Fire Chief Beaudry for his message that night, and my goal in life now is to share that as many times as I can. So that's all. Thank you.
Thank
Have a good
you,
night.
Judy. Nobody else, everybody's had their say, so we will move down to reports. Clerk, do you have anything?
Yes, I do, Mr. Supervisor. As you know, Grosse Ile has a special election scheduled for Tuesday, August 8th. We will be, of course, running the election at precincts, and we are also running our absent voter counting boards. We will be training our volunteers throughout this month. If you're still interested, I think we're always looking for people who want to sign up. You can do the training. We may not necessarily use you this election, but we'll have you ready for the next year, because next year is the big one. You know, a lot of elections next year. There are 4 millage questions on the ballot. These questions represent your opportunity to let your community know what your funding priorities are for the years to come. And obviously, we always hope that all the millage questions pass, but we as a board cannot advocate for any of them. But this is your opportunity to have your voices be heard. Then just letting you know, tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. is the regular pre-election election commission meeting, where the election commission meets and appoints the poll inspectors and a number of other bureaucratic things. It's a public meeting, so you are welcome to attend. And unless Elena has anything else to add, I would just like to say, remember, your recreation department is out there providing a lot of activities for you this summer. Thursday night concerts at Water's Edge. We have the pool, the marina, the golf courses. Centennial Farm is busy with a dog park and the horses, and the buildings are available for rental. So come on down and take part in some of these wonderful activities put together by the Community Recreation Department. Thank you.
Thank you, Uda. David?
Hold on, Jim, before we move on, I got a question for Elena. Was there any,
There wasn't. Yeah.
no, that's okay, we do it next time. I got a text that somebody did, no, it's all right, I mean, it is what it is.
Oh, yeah, they said nothing, so.
I didn't mean to interrupt you, Elena, on that.
No, yeah, she was giving me the word that there was nothing.
I understand.
That's why I didn't ask. Are you okay if I read this? Yeah, if there's one that came into you. Yeah.
Who was it sent to? Was it sent to the township?
It does say Grosse Ile public comments at 6 o'clock. I went down.
No, I'm just saying how Mr. Flavin has a public He was copied on it, okay.
Yeah, go ahead.
No, that's good to know.
No,
No,
go
no.
ahead. Go ahead,
No.
Elena.
Elena can read it.
It doesn't sound like. Is the green light on?
Okay, there we go. Dear Township Board, on behalf of the Grosse Ile Township Taxpayers Association, I am submitting a public comment about the significant changes to the township's hiring process for management level employees that is in part controlled by Section 3.6 of the Township Administrative Policies and Procedures document. The GITA sent an email to the Township Board on June 27th, 2023 that explained our strong legal and public policy objections to the historic role of township commissions and the hiring of certain key management positions being removed from Section 3.6 of the TAPP. While the Township Board approved this change by a vote of 4-2 on the consent agenda during the business meeting held on November 15th, 2022, the details about it is implementation only recently came to the attention of all Township Board members as well as the public. The GITA has reviewed the Township Attorney's recent legal opinion about a narrow aspect of the implementation of the revised Section 3.6 as it pertains to the use of ad hoc township committees to replace some of the vetting and interviewing tasks performed by township commissions during open session public meetings as required by the Michigan Open Meetings Act. We believe that the township attorney's legal opinion does not fully address all the important legal and public policies concerned expressed by GITA attorney Frank Guzmano to the Township Board.
Mr. Kuzmano's legal opinion about the importance of OMA compliance in the township hiring process was first submitted to the Township Board in a letter dated January 11th, 2022. He also specifically addressed the Township Board's requirements to adhere to Groseal Township Ordinance 67.10 as it pertains to the hiring of management level employees of the Groseal Police Department. The GITA resubmitted Mr. Kuzmano legal opinion to the Township Board along with additional references to Michigan Attorney General opinions and guidance in an email dated June 27th, 2023. The GITA urges the Township Board to give this matter further consideration, both in terms of best practices for law and public policy. For example, we do not believe that the Township Attorney's opinion has addressed the inherent conflict that now exists between the implementation of the modified Section 3.6 of TAPP and Groseal Township Ordinance 67.10. Thank you for consideration. Greg Karmazin, Board Member, Groseal Taxpayers Association.
Elena, do you know, was that, you have that down, you'll have that downstairs then?
I should. It wasn't in there.
Okay.
It could have gone through.
No, that's okay, as long as we'll have it, as long as we have it to look at tomorrow.
I would assume it's in the spam filter. Yes.
Okay.
That's my guess. It wasn't in my inbox when I went down there.
Okay, all right, we'll get it one way or another. Thank you, Greg. All right, Mr. Nadeau.
Thank you. There's no report from the treasurer's office. That'll be on the 24th meeting. The DPS meeting for tomorrow evening has been canceled. And there's no report from the Airport Commerce Park Commission as our June meeting was canceled. And the next meeting of the Commerce Park Commission is July 17th at 6 o'clock in the boardroom. And that concludes my report for this evening.
Thank you. Joe.
Good evening. I sit on the Police Commission. The meetings are the third Tuesday of each month in the boardroom here at 7 o'clock. And there has been no meeting since the last Township Board meeting, so I will not have any formal report. But I just want to say one thing, since Ms. Churches is here and Cal. I very much, first, Jamie, appreciate that you, let's use the word, insisted that we get a meeting to see what happened, and it was very informative from ladies and gentlemen here. Thank you, all of the group that's here. And Jamie, thank you. And Cal, I also want to thank you and Jamie, since you're here. Kyle and I have been working with the Army Corps of Engineers. I've been doing it for over 3 years now on an issue. And Kyle has now helped me and has done a phenomenal job helping me. And I know that we got even the gentleman from Darren's office. I'm sorry, I apologize. What was the first name? Tyler, you also. I know that all three offices were contacted about our issue, and you guys were very helpful. Things are starting to roll. Again, being told no doesn't really go over well sometimes when you don't have justification. And your offices were really the push that got it going again. I mean, they can easily tell Kyle and I no, but they can't tell your three offices no very easily. So just thank you very much for that. Thank you for having this group here tonight. It's really helped us out. It educated us, and that's what we need. It's the communication. When you say a collaborative effort, this isn't an effort that we're trying to put you on the spot and say who's at fault and we want to know, and it's not our fault, it's your fault. But the collaborative effort and working together to making it better. And the other gentleman, the head engineer, explained to us how it's going to be fixed. And I get it, things break down. Everything breaks. Anything that's made by humans is going to break. We're going to break. So that's the whole point. But thank you very much for that group. And again, for you three and your office, thank you. And Ms. Scott, thank you also for coming down here and you gave us a lot of information. So this is what it's about and what the people want to hear. They want information. And again, I we've been duped in the past, not by any of your groups, but other agencies, and it doesn't feel good. It just doesn't feel good. It doesn't feel right, and it doesn't feel good. So once again, thank you guys. So that's the end of my report.
Thank you, Joe. Jameson?
Good evening. First and foremost, I sit on Zoning Board of Appeals and the Bicycle and Pedestrian Advisory Committee. BPAC will meet on 20 July, and the Zoning Board of Appeals will meet on 25 July. The only major BPAC project going on presently is the Gibraltar Bay Connector. But they're, which I've covered this probably 10 times, but I guess I'll just say it again. We're moving the fence along East River Road, south of Grow Road, in order to enable bike path to travel adjacent to the airport from the end of Grow Road down to the Gibraltar Bay nature area. It's not going to be a paved surface, but it's a pretty hard-packed rocky surface, and I think even road bikes would survive the trip. So it should be a great boon for the community, especially our pedestrians and bike riders. I received an email from the Groseal Nature and Land Conservancy, and I think Kyle might have been on it as well, maybe Carl, concerning potential future upgrades to our HVAC systems around Township. In which case they asked us to also look into replacing those systems with other options as they time out. So I would be interested to know, as we move forward and get ready to vote on things like replacing furnaces and AC units and things like that, if there are potential heat pumps or heat sink type systems or any other, potentially alternative systems to just standard natural gas and electric driven systems. So just from an environmental point of view. And then I did notice that Judy, and it's been a while, Judy, so thanks for coming in, and the lady to her left, my right, came in just after 7 today, and I believe they probably did so because our meetings are typically at 7, and that's what we voted on. So predictability is an important part of the public's participation in our meetings. So I think that it's important that we don't shift meetings around and that they continue to be at 7. I understand the weather's nice, and I'd love to have some of my evening back too, but we want to make sure people can watch and come and pay attention. So, and that concludes my report.
Carl.
Good evening. I have the pleasure of sitting on the Greenways Open Space Committee. There is no meeting for July, but I do note that all of the chips that were placed along Meridian Road, I calculated at well over 100 yards, have been placed on the trail in Meridian Woods, and I invite anybody and everybody to go back there and take a walk. It's pretty extensive. It's a very nice path. It's not complete. That's going to be an ongoing project with more chips over the years, but it is a very healthy trail right now that has been put in so far. Second thing is, I also sit on the Fire Commission. We're all aware of the fire that occurred last week on Meridian Road, just north of Church. Unfortunately, the pets that were in the building were lost, but there were no human lives lost. It's still terribly difficult and heartbreaking, but it is a reminder of how fragile life is, even in the best of circumstances. We did have one firefighter that was taken briefly to the hospital for heat exhaustion. I am pleased to report that he is okay, but that is a very difficult job to do, whether it is 6 p.m. at night or 3 a.m. in the morning. You still suffer and have the possibilities of injuries. He is doing okay, and the family is regrouping, and I think they've been on Facebook, so if you have an ability to do some donations or to help them in any way. The second thing is that the fire department is also continuously recruiting. If you are interested in working in the Groseal Volunteer Fire Department, you should contact GIFD Recruiting at Groseal.com. Again, GIFD Recruiting at Groseal.com, or you can call 734-676-7157. Again, 734-676-7157. Further, that there is going to be training this Wednesday at 7 p.m. out on the infield of the Groseal Airport. They're putting together a live burn as a demonstration and as a training exercise. So if you see smoke and you hear and observe things going on at the airport, recognize that Wednesday is a training session. We do not have an accident, at least we're not anticipating anything like that, and that will be a live burn training exercise. Third thing is Judy's comments and what I saw on Facebook, truly heart-rendering, Judy. But on a personal note, I had an air conditioner go out at one of our rentals, and I brought in a friend who's trained in HVAC to take a look at it. He decided that it would be best, given the 25-year age or 24-year age of the system, to go ahead and have that replaced, and said, while you're down there, if you can take a look at the furnace. Heat exchanger, 3 cracks. Both the heat exchangers had been installed roughly the same time. They were not old, but there were 3 cracks in each of them, and there was no warning. God bless him for being the professional to go ahead and do that. And Judy, God bless you for having the common sense, the perseverance to recognize that bad things happen to good people for no reasons at all. And my heart goes out to you for that. Finally, I'd also, again, like to thank everybody from the House of Representatives, Lansing, the House of Representatives, Washington, D.C., Senate in Lansing, all of the fine people from DTE here that came tonight and for making this happen. But I also want to recognize Supervisor Budney for collaborating and making this possible as well. We've heard from everybody else, and I truly respect and thank you for taking the time to come here. But Jim, you're often unheralded, ignored, forgotten. And I just want to simply say, from this seat, I appreciate the work that you did putting this together. And it is a collaborative effort. It's not 4 or 5 or 6 or 7-0, but it is an individual that makes the effort to put this through. And when you advised me that you had reached out to our congressional representative and our Senate and our House of Representatives in DTE, and to have 5 people from DTE come down here today is pretty impressive. And I want to thank everybody for that, and I also want to give you some recognition for the work that you did with that, Jim. And that concludes my report.
Thank you, Carl. Derek.
I think it's me.
I'm sorry.
No problem.
I checked you off already. Thank you.
All good. I sit on the Planning Commission. It is not scheduled to meet before our next board meeting, but I am happy to report that there is movement on a couple things. First, the request for proposal process for master plans is closed, and we're now starting to interview different firms, which I'm really, really excited about. I think that could make a huge difference for the township. And we're also starting to look at some of the ordinances that have been brought up a couple meetings ago. So I'm really excited about those 2 things moving on the planning front. I wanted to echo my colleagues as well and thank everyone that's here tonight. I'd agree with Representative Scott. I'm not totally satisfied, but the fact that everyone showed up here, that apology, again, public apology makes a huge difference to me, and I would hope a lot of others. And it's nice to know that these things are being looked at, and these really talented minds in this room are working on this. So I can't thank everyone here in this room enough. I will say that. Kind of a small thing, but an important thing. I've noticed, and I've brought this up in different occasions, but I want to say this publicly. We hired a new IT firm, and that spam filter is just, it's overly cautious. Not only is it overly cautious, but even as you try to train it and let it know that, this email should go through, it's still stopping emails. And I'm seeing it affect business across the township. So it seems like a small thing, but I think it's a really big thing when constituents can't get in touch with us, can't get in touch with township employees. I've tried to submit a ticket to our IT firm. I haven't been able to get them to follow up. So again, anything that can be done to fix that, I think would be really good. And then to go a little bit bigger, I do want to give an update on McLouth. I've spoken on this at the last 2 board meetings. It's something I followed since before I was on the board. As I mentioned to you all, there was what's believed to be leachate coming from McLouth on the north side of the property into the McGuagan Creek right near the toll bridge. That has been pretty well confirmed since our last board meeting. A Detroit News article came out. It was very informative, I thought, made very clear that they don't know how long that leachate's been going in there, or really, the best way to stop it. something that was still concerning to me, though, is Eagle has taken the position that the recent construction there to connect the railroad is not affecting pollution in that area. It's Eagle's position that that's true for the creek, but not for the roadside. So that's a little bit complicated. I still think the jury's out on the creek. I think that the construction might have contributed to pollution into the creek. I understand why Eagle has decided that's not true. But what's very clear to me is the construction has led this calcium hydroxide, which is a very basic substance, basically the same thing as undiluted bleach, to go into the roadside, possibly dry out, possibly get into the air. And I will say the Crown Enterprises is misrepresenting Eagle's position. Even though Eagle has said it's not affecting on the riverside, they're saying, oh, this doesn't affect anything, and that's not true. Eagle's position is on the roadside. It could have affected things. So anyway, it's something I'm following closely. I'm grateful to, again, the representatives that are here in the audience. They've been instrumental in getting some of those answers. It's something I'm going to continue to follow. I have to give a shout out to Congresswoman Dingell here. She, after Eagle said that this wasn't affecting things, she came out very strongly and expressed concerns about the way the construction's been handled there. So again, very, very grateful on that, and we'll be monitoring it very closely. And then finally, Wayne County, we spoke about it a little bit earlier. DTE, I think you all are fortunate you're coming here tonight, and we get to compare you to Wayne County and how they've dealt with the bridge. I've got to tell you all. And that really is a good contrast, you know. The apology that Wayne County did for a recent closure, you know, they gave in private to us, not in public. They haven't come here. They haven't answered questions from the public. And it's something I'm concerned about, and we're all concerned about. So again, it's something I'm watching closely. I know we all are. But yeah, I'll leave it there. I'll say one more thing. I wasn't really going to say anything on this, but I feel like I maybe should. I was born and raised in Guatemala, so I have that part of me that allows me to see things from the outside, I think. But I also have the part of me that's an 8th generation islander here, tied very directly back to the folks that signed the treaty with the Potawatomi. I think we all know now that the treaty wasn't necessarily a fair deal, wasn't signed in the best way. At the time, I think relations might have been a little bit better, but as things went on, things got a little bit more difficult. Bottom line is, being an 8th generation here, I'm not a historian, but I do believe in the power of history. And I know that there's been some bad things in our history that have happened here, thinking back those 247 years. But I also know that there's good things. It's hard to differentiate the two sometimes, I will say. And one of the good things that I think are here, and it's been great to be here, is I see all the time when the public's able to participate, good things can happen, and that's something that's pretty amazing. And I do think that's something that was started here in its most current iteration in this country, and it's something that we should defend and work for, not just here on the board, but everyone in the public, really. So, you know, again, reflecting back on 247 years, it's something, it's humbling to be here thinking about that, and thinking about what we can do to, I'm not even going to say another 247 years, because that's a long time, but I think a lot about my kids, the 9th generation, what we can do to make it better for them. So I know we all work towards that, and just want to encourage everyone to keep working towards that. So I'll leave it there and conclude my report. Thanks all.
Thank you, Kyle. You didn't look that old. Now, Derek.
Just a quick few items for this evening. The road work continues around the island, as probably everybody is aware. There has been a little bit of a delay, especially at some of the intersections due to rain that we've had that's delayed them a couple of days. Hopefully the majority of the intersection work will be wrapped up by the end of this week. So I understand it's an inconvenience, but you know, when they lay that down, there is no way to put that material down without it reducing some traffic flow. So apologize for that, but hopefully it'll be done by the end of the week. We were able to obtain some savings underneath the original contract amount because there was some undercutting expense that was allocated for within the original budget that wasn't realized because the substrate was in better condition once they milled the surface off the majority of the roads. So what we were able to do was take some of those savings and place those onto a couple of different stretches of road that we hadn't anticipated being able to work on. So starting today, and I apologize, I think the notice had mentioned it was going to start tomorrow, but starting today, stretches of Canal and then HCL Jackson Drive had their surfaces milled, and those will be resurfaced with the same contractor that we had this original contract on. So that'd be good news for the residents in that area. I know I got a couple of phone calls today about the work that was going on down there. So you will be aware of work that's occurring around the island if you're a member of Code Red. So I want to put in a quick plug to emphasize signing up for that program. If you go to our township website, down on the lower right-hand corner is instructions on how to sign up, but we'll send notices out about work such as that construction activity that I think we sent the notice out last week, end of last week, about the work that was supposed to actually start tomorrow, but actually started today. So just a little bit of information about some of the paving work. Regarding new surfaces, Groziel Park Lane, the repaving or the new pavement that's occurring in that stretch off of Church. They started doing the drainage work as part of that project actually last week, and that work is scheduled to conclude by the end of the summer. So the end of August, that stretch of road should be paved. I know that I received quite a few phone calls about residents wanting to know if that actually was going to be paved because it was a rumor, but I can confirm that that stretch from basically Church up to Horse Mill will be paved this summer. Crack sealing work will start still probably the middle of this week, if not the middle of this week, the end of this week. That'll be in the center of the island where we've yet to get an exact date, but as soon as we have that information, we'll put that out to the residents. And then last but not least, Trustee Kyle had mentioned the master plan. I want to give a special thanks to the Planning Commission and also the Community Development Director in working hard to get those solicitations out and getting packets together for planning services for the master plan. The key part of any master plan is public involvement. So as we move through the process to select a vendor, a consultant to use in doing the master plan update, I want to and I will continue to emphasize the residents' involvement in that, because that master plan, the most important component is the residents' involvement. And there'll be a lot of opportunities to be able to get resident input on that master plan, on that new master plan. And the best product at the end of the day will be if the residents voice their opinion about what they want to see from the community for the next 20 to 25 years. And that really will be the roadmap that we'll follow moving forward. So if you want to have a hand in what the community looks like in the future, your involvement in that master plan process is going to be very important. And every single resident's opinion about what they'd like to see within the community is important. So no matter how minor your idea you might think might be, I think that they're going to want to hear that so that it can be incorporated or at least considered in that new master plan. So with that, that's all the report I have for this evening.
Just got a question for you, Dave.
Yes.
Anyway, just so you know, I just wanted to get an answer from you from when we met today. Derek and I made a phone call to the DPS director of Wayne County on a cell phone today, and there was no answer. But did you ever get a call back?
I left a message, but I haven't heard back yet.
I have a question too. During the paving project, they did East River, or at least a portion of East River. It looks like right around Macomb down to Manchester is a stretch that was just recently completed, but they didn't do the shoulder.
Yeah, so that shoulder was originally designed as a pedestrian shoulder using pedestrian funds. So we weren't legally allowed to use road millage funds, which are intended for road work on a pedestrian path. And specifically, those pedestrian dollars were spent on that, so it was basically dedicated for that purpose. And we can only use pedestrian dollars for that area. So
okay.
All right. Thanks, Derek. And just to follow up to that, all the people that put in bids on our master plan, they all had a lot of time allocated to listening to the public. So I think, as we always say, it's important to hear from the public. Please, take advantage of that, and they will be advertising it when that part will come up. I sit on the DDA commission, and the Thursday, the 27th of July, is our next meeting. We will be talking about our next mural, which will be on the Zubke Plumbing Building, that is scheduled to be a freighter, and we will be talking about what type of freighter it's going to be and what's going to be on there. So if you are interested in that, please come to the meeting or tune in. Other than that, Kevin, you mentioned about tolls. I will speak to Wayne County about that in their planning ahead. We'll talk about, because it came up at the last closure, but we were already in a closure, and there was no traction on that while they were doing it. So let's do it ahead of time and see if something can be built in. Judy, we've looked at the solar for the township twice, but we can do it again. And both times that we did it, it just didn't make economical sense at the time. So, and as it's pointed out, the technology is changing. Things are getting better, getting less expensive. There's money out there now for those types of things. So we can look into that again. And I just want to, again, as everybody has, thank all our representatives and the DTE for coming in and speaking to us. We really appreciate it. Thank you. And with that,
Move to adjourn.
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We are adjourned.